Have you ever told a joke at a job interview? How did it go down? Interviewer asked me, are you gonna be a pain in the ass or someone I won't have to worry about? I replied probably both and was offered the job shortly after. Printed my resume accidentally on cardstock. Thought it was resume paper. Interviewer, while turning it around in his hands, wow, this is some thick paper. I said, makes it harder to crumple up. He laughed. I got the job. It's my card. I thought you'd be taller. The hiring manager interviewing me said the job is great most days, but there are the days where you will wanna pull your hair out. He was bald, so I said that must have happened to you already. He had a great sense of humor, so him and the trainee manager sitting in on the interview laughed, and he told me at the end of the interview my personality and credentials were exactly what they were looking for. I got the job and left after 3 months because it really did make me wanna pull my hair out. That was a risky joke, Mayo. Honestly, I picked up on context clues in his office that the interviewing manager played a lot of Blizzard stuff, so I started using terms like Zerg, Russian turtling. He laughed at them. I laughed at them. And then the guy who actually owned that office walked in and laughed at the last joke. My mum worked with a Korean lady named Soyoung. When she was interviewing for the job, my mom's older boss asked her how she said her name. She said, I am Soyoung. Like you are so old. It landed her the job instantly. I was being interviewed for a sales position at a floor covering company. My dad had been in the industry for years and had a loose acquaintance with the individual who was interviewing me. At the end of the interview, I told him that my dad told me everything I needed to know about carpet just before the interview. He said, oh yeah, what was that? My response, fuzzy side up. He called later that day and offered me the job. I had an interview for a flooring company and they asked me what my experience with flooring was, and I no joke said I've been walking on them my whole life. My cousin went to a church because he was trying to become some position at the church, pastor, altar boy, or ultimately a priest, I assume. Essentially, he told the joke, and the Lord said unto John, come forth and receive eternal life. But John came fifth and won a toaster. From his words, the priest laughed his ass off. I was surprised he had never heard that joke before. But John came fifth and had to eat the biscuit. Whenever I'd have one where there were a lot of people on their side of the table, room, I'd say something like, well, this isn't intimidating. Almost every time people would chuckle and it broke the ice a little, as intended. But one time the men blankly stared for a moment and then just asked me to sit down. Did not get that job. At the end of an interview I did in college for an internship, the 3 interviewers said they asked the interviewee at the end to either sing a song or tell a joke. I opted for telling a joke. I told my favorite, cleanest joke ever. Why does a chicken coop have 2 doors? Because if it had 4 doors, it would be a chicken sedan. Anyway, the internship involved working with kids and I think they wanted to see how quickly we could entertain a child without any planning really. They loved the clean joke and I followed up with, I think it's important to memorize 5 clean jokes that you can tell to any audience. And proceeded to tell 4 more clean jokes. I got the internship. This is so unbelievably stupid and I can't stop laughing. My wife is already pissed at you for loading me up with a new go-to joke. Where do sick boats go? The dock. I had an interview that I was already bombing. Then they asked how I do under pressure. I responded with not well apparently. Didn't get it. Can you perform under pressure? No, but I can do a decent Bohemian Rhapsody. They asked me to tell them a joke, ice cream parlor. On the spot, the only thing that came to my head was, why do gorillas have large nostrils? Because they have such big fingers. They looked at me in awkward silence and I told them I didn't want the job anyway. They looked at me in awkward silence and I told them I didn't want the job anyway. This made me burst out laughing. Roffle, I don't want the job anyway is the real joke. If they didn't laugh at that, then they don't deserve you. I worked at a middle school for a decade. The high school we fed was right across the parking lot. My wife worked there as the Spanish teacher. So when a position came up there, I thought, why not? I interviewed. They all knew me. They knew my wife. So when, at the end of the interview, they asked me if I had any questions, I asked, yeah, does that cute Spanish teacher still work here? Principal laughed. Assistant principal laughed. Central office person freaked out. I didn't get the job and I can't help but think that was the reason. I was qualified. They liked me and my wife. I explained that my wife was the Spanish teacher, but I think the central office person was singularly humorless and didn't like it. No big loss. Way back, we were visiting my grandmother and my dad ducked out to mow her lawn. An elderly neighbor shuffled over and asked, "How much does Ruth pay you to mow the lawn?" Without missing a beat, my dad replied, "Nothing, but she lets me sleep with her daughter." After quickly retreating in shock, she came back sheepishly to ask if he was Ruth's son-in-law. I was interviewing for a dispatch position where I have to talk to gas technicians. Interviewer was saying, the techs can be highly stressed in the field. Some of them can get rude and unpleasant on the phones at times. They can be quite unpolitically correct. Are you able to handle people like that? Me. Oh, so just another conversation with my parents. That's no problem for me. I suppose she wasn't expecting that answer and burst out laughing. I ended up getting the job. I'm still there now, but now I'm part of the recruitment team so I get to see the other side. I was the interviewer in this case, and the interviewee was doing well. He had the right skills. He seemed smart and friendly enough. I was thinking he could be a possible hire. If I thought a candidate was good, I'd ask the CTO to speak with them right after me. It was a small web company with less than 75 employees. I managed the software QA team. The CTO came to my office after talking with the candidate and he had a very puzzled look on his face. "I really don't know how to respond to what just happened," he said. I was a bit confused because I thought the candidate had been doing well. It turns out, when the CTO asked the candidate to tell him a little about himself, the candidate started with, "I was born a poor black child." The candidate was not black. Some of you, like me, may recognize that as a line from the hilarious Steve Martin movie The Joke. The CTO was not familiar with the movie and didn't know the candidate was even quoting a movie. And that was that. No way the CTO would have approved hiring the candidate after that. When I was about 20 or so, I applied for a university police job. Passed everything, and onto the polygraph, which I promptly failed. Twice. Same question both times. Have you ever smoked marijuana? Yes. Apparently, I lied about having smoked pot. Twice. In the chief's office when he's reviewing the questions and he says, "You lied on the pot question." If I didn't hire everyone BC they once smoked pot, I wouldn't have a force. You passed the drug test, that's all I care about. I wanna hire you, but I can't BC or the poly. Told him to reread my response and his eye got really big. He says, "Wait, you said yes? Why would you lie about that?" I responded, "I wanted you to think I was cool." He damn near fell out of his chair laughing. Still didn't get the job, but kinda glad looking back. I tried to get into the police academy, self-sponsor, so no guarantee of a job at the end, in 2018 and had to take a poly. I showed deception for the question, "Are you withholding any information about your personal experience with illegal drugs?" I've never done drugs in my entire life. LOL. Polys are such bullshit. Yes, I'm still bitter. Polys are bullshit enough not to be used in court as evidence. I don't know why anyone is allowed to conduct them in any capacity. You'd get better results talking to the psychic at the county fair. When asked what are your weaknesses, I said I'm terrible at interviews. I got the job. I always say, I'm too modest. No one is more modest than me. I was at an interview for an office job at a large mine. They were discussing the different projects they had going on, from ecology to the deepest part of the mine. I didn't realize there was so much involved and said there really is a lot going on beneath the surface. Both interviewers just looked at me and started giggling. I work for a series of plant biology research labs in reception, and the interview process was horrifically dull. We were all cramped in a tiny room, because they had overbooked the conference rooms and didn't have a proper space to interview me, so it was comically cramped as 4 of us sat around a small coffee table. They asked me if I had ever couriered biological materials. My reply was Not my own, but I assume there is a form for that. They all laughed. Thank God. A few moments went by while they made notes, and the next question was, sometimes we receive live bees in the mail. Are you comfortable with receiving that? And my unfiltered response was, oh, like a revenge thing? Or is it for pollination? And they really liked that response. Needless to say, I was hired within an hour. Q. Tell us a little something about yourself. A. I'd rather not. I really want this job. I did this at Dollar Tree. Didn't get the job, lol. As a 6 feet 6 inches 260 pounds man, I interviewed for a job in Asia, and the last question they asked me was, what do you think will be the hardest thing about moving to X city? Having had a look around town for a belt and trousers, I realized that Asian sized clothing would never fit me, so I just responded with, honestly, I think the hardest thing about moving here will be finding a piece of clothing that fits me. They had a good chuckle and I got the job.